Hello, and welcome back to rLounge. Lessons in life will be repeated until they are learned. Today, we learn some hard lessons. Our first OP's sister is just full of pop quizzes. Am I the a-hole for banning my sister from ever seeing my daughter again? I, 36 male, got married 12 years ago, and my wife and I had a daughter, Rebecca, 10 female. My sister, Lindsay, never really liked my wife, and I had to put some strong boundaries in place. It was not a good time, and Lindsay really hated my wife more since she said I was choosing my wife over family. Well, 2 months ago, my wife's father got really sick, and after a long talk, we decided that she will go take care of him until he passes away. That's the last of her family. We thought he would move in with us, but he wanted to go at his home. So my wife packed her stuff and flew across the country to him and is his full-time caretaker. He probably has a month or two more. When Lindsay heard about this, she made a comment at dinner when Rebecca was at the table that my wife has abandoned her. This was the last straw, and I went no contact with her. Rebecca really loves her aunt though, and it's been hard. Rebecca wants to hang out with her aunt, and I have refused to let her. I work from home, and yesterday around lunchtime, I can't find her. There's a note in her room saying she went to have lunch with Lindsay. I was furious and tracked Rebecca's phone, the first time that has ever happened. And they were at a restaurant. I get there as fast as possible and grabbed my kid. I told Lindsay she will never see my daughter again. This started an argument and I literally walked out halfway through. Rebecca, the whole time, was crying and I asked her for her phone. She gave it and I deleted her aunt's contact information and told her you will never be talking to her again as long as you are a minor. She was crying even more. I told my wife and she thinks I did the right thing and has been on the phone with Rebecca a lot since it happened. I have been fending off calls from all my family calling me a jerk. I need an honest opinion since Rebecca and my family sure think I am awful. Inconceivable 44 weighs in first. Not the a-hole. Your sister took a 10-year-old out of her home without informing either parent. She planned it in advance and likely asked your daughter to keep it a secret from you. And people are calling you a jerk? What if you didn't find the note? How many times could this have happened before? In the future? Definitely not the a-hole. And shame on anyone who tells you otherwise. Major Administrative also chimes in, not the a-hole. Your sister doesn't respect your wife, you or your parenting decisions. She already speaks poorly about your wife in front of your daughter and took your child without your permission or knowledge. Update. So it has been like 2.5 weeks since all of this happened. Thank you to everyone that responded. So after this whole mess, me and my daughter traveled to where my wife is and her dad. We are all going to stay there until her dad passes away, and I have a feeling it will be soon. He is not doing well. Rebecca is still kind of upset that she won't see her aunt again, but having her mom around really helps. My wife and I discussed it for a long time and we decided to make a paper trail about what happened, so all that happened is now on record. My family kept blowing my phone up for a bit until I told them she is lucky I didn't call the cops. They got quiet for a bit and according to my cameras, showed up at my place. It took them a while to figure out we left to be with my wife. Now Lindsay. Yesterday it must have sunk in that I wasn't joking, and she called so many times and I gave in to see what she had to say. It was a long apology on her end and asked if she can see Rebecca. I told her no, that she needs to stay away, and she crossed a huge boundary. She asked if she could talk to my wife. I put her on speaker. Lindsay then apologized to my wife about what she did. My wife was quite brutal and basically said if she really meant it, then stay away from them. At the moment, Lindsay won't be seeing my daughter again for a bit. If she does stay away, then maybe she will see us at Thanksgiving and Christmas. If she doesn't behave then, probably won't see my kid until she is 18. Again, thank you to everyone for the good advice. Edit. She knows why it was explained. Still, Lindsay was a huge part of her life. It's like when you have a friend that is great to you, but she is awful to others. It's like I can be her friend since she is nice to me and ignore what the friend does to others. Our first opinion comes from Zookeeper007. I really think you need to explain to Rebecca why she can't see her aunt. Explain the sequence of events and constant abuse towards her mother. If you don't, she will only get her aunt's version and will likely keep seeing her once she turns 18. The OP replies, we did explain it to her. She knows in child-friendly terms. A lot of what she did is not suited to be heard by a young kid. There are a lot of bad blood, other stuff. She knows the basics, especially what happened in the post. When she is older, we will explain in more detail. She is having trouble due to Lindsay was a huge part of her life and she lost her. She still misses her and is dealing with Lindsay wasn't a good person to mom and me, but she was good to her. that since she was good to me, why can't she be around me? No Rub 1544 adds, good job for standing up for your wife like that, and joining her while she is going through this difficult time. I know it is hard for your daughter to understand, but her aunt literally kidnapped her, and she doesn't deserve to hear such things about her mom abandoning her. In time, I'm sure she will understand better. But my question is, you say your family showed up at your house. Why? Was your sister there too? Are you worried they will show up again when you are back? Thank you for the update. I think you're doing the right thing for your family, OP. The fact that she took your daughter without your permission is beyond irresponsible. She should never have done that. Doing this is just a perfect example of her as a person. Clearly, she doesn't respect you or your wife. It sounds like your sister is incapable of thinking of anyone else beyond herself or to hold compassion for those around her. Yes, she apologized, but it seems like she's apologizing for completely selfish reasons. She apologized because she's seeking control again after you set strong boundaries. She's lost the sense of control she thought she had. Apologies are empty without actually changing your actions. Sure, in time, perhaps she can change her ways, but until that time, creating space between her and your family is the best thing you can do. Your daughter will come to understand this. Best not to have your sister teaching Rebecca things you'd rather her not learn. Continue raising her to be the best she can be. Would you have got ties with your sister? Let us know in the comments below. Meanwhile, our next OP's husband needs some extra credit. Am I the a-hole for not waking my partner up and causing him to miss a family trip? My, 26 female, and my partner, 28 male, have 5 daughters. 7, 6, 4, 3, and 5 months. For a long time, there's been an issue with him getting up to help with the kids of a morning. He thinks he should be able to sleep in on his days off work, while I think he should get up when the kids and I do. Or we should at least be alternating who lies in a bit. We've been seeing a therapist who has mentioned he should be helping more in the mornings. Recently, we had a family trip planned to the zoo with both of our parents, our sisters, and their kids. Previously, when we've gone out for the day, I've needed to shake my partner awake several times, and he lies in bed while I get the kids ready. He's finally up 5 minutes before we leave as I shouted him, I'm getting in the car. I've mentioned to him that this is very frustrating as it's a lot of work getting the kids ready to go out, and it's not fair to leave it up to me while he lies in bed. He'd apologize and promise that the next time he'd get up and help. The night before the trip, I told him I'd need him to be awake at 6:30 a.m. so we could get everyone ready to leave by 8 a.m. He said he'd set an alarm and we went to bed. My alarm went off at 6:30 a.m. and I got up, while my partner kept sleeping. I decided I wasn't going to wake him this time and continued getting the kids ready. At 8 a.m., he was still sleeping, so I loaded the kids in the car and we set off. We arrived at the zoo at 9:30 a.m. and his family asked where he was. I mentioned he was still in bed and chose not to come. At 10:15 a.m., I got a phone call from him asking where everyone was. I said we went to the zoo as planned, and I waited for him to get up, but he never did. He got really mad and told me I should have woken him up, like I always do, and I caused him to miss the trip. He then called his mom and complained to her, who yelled at me in the middle of the zoo that I was being unfair and I should have given him a shake to let him know he needed to get up, and that I was about to leave. My mother jumped in and said it wasn't my responsibility to get him out of bed, and he needed to take responsibility for himself. A few more words were exchanged, and his family stalked off for the rest of the trip. I had a blast with my kids, parents, sister, and my nephews. When we got home, my partner started on me again about how I should have woken him up. So, am I the a-hole for not waking him up and going without him? A few things have come up I want to clarify. He wasn't always like this. When the oldest 2 were little, he was always up with them. He even got up before anybody else to cook breakfast before going off to work. We had to move in with his parents at one point, and that's where things started to change. His family is incredibly misogynistic. Dad works, then comes home, watches TV, and drinks beer while his mom does everything else, including getting him up for work, etc. These beliefs seem to have rubbed off on him, and his mom is very quick to tell him something is the woman's job. He's seeing a therapist independently who has suggested some form of depression. He's generally pretty good otherwise. He will help with dinner, cleaning, putting the kids to bed, etc. He's not entirely useless. Getting out of bed in the morning is a long-standing issue though. He had a vasectomy after baby number 4, which turned out to be incomplete. I had a hysterectomy. Our first reaction comes from Columbo Spuget. Not the a-hole. I taught my daughter that she was responsible for getting herself up for high school, and if she missed the bus, I wasn't going to drive her. She never missed the bus. Old Calligrapher 962 chimes in, not the a-hole. Your husband takes you for granted. He has no intention of helping you and knows you'll always take care of the kids. He seems to think parenting has a day off when it never really does, and he has to share responsibility. He is clearly encouraged by his mother. Her yelling at you instead of him shows me she's the type to excuse his behavior and let her poor son rest and leave it to the wife. Be firm with him. Do not apologize, and make sure you set rules in the future where either you both wake up or take turns, or else him missing out will continue in the future and you're done waking him up for his kids. Update. After posting this, I received messages expressing concern and advice, so I thought I'd update about how things turned out. The morning after this incident, my partner got out of bed when the kids did and took the older girls out for breakfast. Later, I asked him if he'd be willing to read the thread, and he agreed. He was very subdued afterward and didn't say much except for agreeing that he was the a-hole. The next day, he took off work and saw his general practitioner, started on antidepressants, and we had a long talk. He was ashamed by how he was acting and to see strangers comparing him to children. He cried when he realized how much he was letting everyone down, especially his daughters, who will grow up thinking this is normal behavior. He confirmed that this all started when we lived with his parents a few years back. He left home at 17 to get away from his mother, and she told him he'd fail as men need a woman to look after them. He felt like a failure, so it was easy for his mother to feed him other ideas, and she would also manipulate things I did to look like he was incompetent as a person. Example, I'd tell him to relax and I'd handle the dishes, and his mother twisted it into me thinking he was incompetent, so he should just stop helping at all. He'd wake up feeling useless, and she managed to convince him that he was unhappy because I wasn't taking care of him the way a wife should. He decided to go no contact with her, which didn't go well. She cried and told him he was a horrible son for abandoning his mother, and that I was trying to control him by forcing him to do it. He blocked her, but she'd just used different numbers to continue calling him. After a week or so, he ended up changing his number, and we haven't heard from his family since. He brought up that he was unhappy at work as it wasn't stimulating enough, but he felt like he couldn't leave. I offered to pick up some part-time work, but he said no. He talked to his boss and took some time off, and eventually quit. He spoke to my dad, who used some connections and got him a good job at his company. The new job is a primarily work-from-home position, so he is able to help with the girls more and he has more free time. He is able to take the girls to school and watch them play while he works, which they all enjoy. Before he started the new job, he booked a trip for us to go to the snow for a week. We had a blast, and it was lovely to see him relaxed and happy and enjoying our girls and life. He's promised to be more honest about how he's feeling, and our relationship has improved immensely. Thank you for everyone who gave judgment and advice. As he says, it really helped him see things more clearly, especially the toxic relationship with his mother. The first reaction comes from Peggy HW. He sounds like a keeper. Messed up. Realized it. Made concrete steps to make it better. Hyagha says, if this isn't the best Am I the A-hole update, I don't know what is. Scathing Hagfish chimes in, this forum breaks my heart on a daily basis, so seeing something truly good and healthy unfold from the advice given here has rekindled my faith in humanity. Thank you for sharing this update, and thank you to everyone in this community. One more reaction from Belladonna Bordeaux. Please let your hubby know this internet stranger is proud of him for making changes to become the person he was meant to be, the person his mother tried to squash down. This sounds like a huge test of a relationship, OP. Thank you for being so patient with him for as long as you had. I think not waking him up for the zoo turned out to be a huge wake-up call for him and very much a sign of what's to come if he kept on the path that he was on. He would have missed out on a lot of what was going on in his family's lives. Depression is tough. Tough go. It's not easy to crawl out of the dark. It's a journey, and you have to take it day by day. It's great that he's seeking help. There's a lot that he has to face with himself, and the best thing you can do is be there to support him. I know you both will get through this. What do you think? Is OP the a-hole? And thank you for joining us today on rLounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content, share that with us in the comments below. Until next time.